Hello.
There's two of you.
That's right.
Certainly.
You didn't expect that, did you?
I did not.
Ah.
How are you?
Yeah, well. I'm well.
I'm doing all right. How about you?
How about you?
I'm doing really well. I sense some Englishness.
Oh, yeah, we're from London.
You're from London town.
Well, we live in London. We're not from London, but we live in London.
All right.
And
I
you
grew up
London
in London.
I know.
Who are you?
Well, I'm Elainea.
I'm Wesley. Hello.
And we're mother and son.
Okay. And tell me about yourselves. Sorry, I've been bamboozled by the fact that there's two of you. I'm still in I feel like I'm seeing double, but clearly I am because there are two of you, and I've never done a podcast with two people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Good.
Right, so we'll tell you about ourselves. I was scouted by Hester Blumenthal's team to cook on Crazy Delicious, which is a TV program about crazy, delicious, inventive food. So I had to learn how to cook like a chef very, very quickly. I'm a photographer, originally a protest photographer. So I started off doing a lot of activism with Women's March London and UK Black Pride, Million Women Rise, lots and lots of, charities and wonderful, wonderful activists. And then I got scouted. I would go to a protest on Saturday. Wesley would sometimes come with me. And then on Sunday, I would buy food and create a still life and photograph it and eat it. And I got scouted by my pictures, and then I ended up cooking with him as a judge and wonderful Michelin star chefs like Carla Hall. And yeah, it was quite an amazing experience. And since then, we've been cooking like crazy, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do supper clubs. Wesley he's a writer. He got a journalist degree.
Yeah, I got a degree in journalism, but I've also been sort of going on the chef journey with Mum as well. I've been working as a chef in a fair few places, and I've been sort of helping Mum with all the supper clubs. Cooking's one of the things that we share. Really.
I mean, he's very modest. He's been working as a pastry chef in a Michelin star restaurant, doing a sort of 12-hour shift. And we cook with our supper clubs. I do savoury, he does sweet. And we also are models. It sounds glamorous, but for Zebedee Talent Agency, which is an international agency that specialise in models and actors with disabilities. Wesley has autism, and they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And they took us together. So we also do shoots together and independently. So one gets booked, we have to do auditions, and we do that together. And that's really fun. We just don't know what's going to happen. And
it can make their days and evenings quite unpredictable, really.
Yeah. And it's fun, though. I mean, we can be reading scripts and doing it together. And you get a lot of insight when we've been working on our own monologues. So I've been working on mine, Wesley works on his. And you find out a bit more about your child, the person that you're with, when you're doing a monologue or you've written a script. And it's an insight that I guess not a lot of mothers have with their 23-year-olds. We do it together. And on top of that, I work full time.
What I can sense and feel is there was a beautiful bond between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
I think so too. I mean, it's just us together. It's just here in our tiny little flat in, northwest London, and it's it's just us. So it is just us, isn't it?
Yeah, we're a team,
We're a team. We don't really have people come to visit apart from the supper clubs. But now, if we walk outside, we turned the front yard into a kitchen garden. So we move the wheelie bins out of the way, and we're growing lots of veg. So people literally do knock, and we end up giving stuff away and just talking to people about food. We grow sweet potatoes in, reclaimed buckets and shelving and things. Because I think at the end of the day, it's making sure that, it's trying to grow something beautiful, but it's also the joy of seeing something grow and food's expensive. And something like a sweet potato is amazing for a curry. I also turned it into sweet potato ice cream. Wesley's mad on ice creams.
Yeah.
We know you're mad on ice creams. So it's just fun, right? It's cooking, it's sharing, it's we all have to eat. And you can find out so much about someone when, if you're taking their picture, and I just say to them, what do you like to eat? What did your mum cook for you? And immediately the face softens. What do you like to eat? What did your mum cook for you?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Greek, and she used to. They used to cook these Greek dishes. One of them was called pasticcio. I don't know if you know it.
No.
It's amazing. It's like pasta, meat, cheese. It's like this. I can see it right now. Like I could eat the entire thing.
You see, that's what happens when someone describes what their mother cooked for them. They get excited, and your face just softens. And it takes you back. And the fact that we can share that is quite amazing. And that's all. Sometimes that's all you have to, to do. Just talk to people about food. And I just think everyone has a story. Everyone has their own heritage. And that's what we do.
And what are some of the stories that you've kind of been able to hear about food? Like, what are some of the stories that you've been able to kind of be inspired by?
Some of them are just very personal. A lot comes out. People not having enough to eat. Wesley and I started baking for a homeless charity, didn't we?
Yeah. It was just sort of one that's just up the road, and it was just every weekend that we'd get books out and sort of try and figure out what we bake, and while also trying to incorporate things like fruit into it.
Yeah, so we could get the five a day. So carrot cake was ideal, but they gave us these huge tins, right? And we had no idea. I was like, Wesley, what's the maths with this? Because we just had to. We had to feed about 60. Yeah, and it was really difficult. Actually,
you need tins that big to feed that many people. Yeah. It's just like they could barely fit in our oven.
Yeah, we could barely fit in our oven. Then we had to, but we wanted to make everything beautiful, so that when we presented the food, when we did, they couldn't believe that it was theirs. They weren't getting the, and there's nothing wrong with getting the surplus food or food donated, but this was food that was made for them. That was really special. I get a lot of there's a lot of homeless around, people on budgets, people trying to survive with food banks, and you hear the stories about people's childhoods, really, when they used to grow up on a farm, how they don't have enough, but talking about herbs, making stock, putting herbs in water to make a stock, making things stretch. So being inventive with what you've got, and it's just memories, really. People remembering what their moms used to cook or what they enjoy eating, or really being quite silly with things and saying, "Have you thought about putting that with that?" And they think that's crazy. But also that's also quite funny. That can be a starting point. Wes, you made a burnt strawberry ice cream.
Yeah,
amazing.
I think that was
one. How do you make burnt strawberry ice cream?
Well, it's quite simple. It's just you get strawberries. You put them in the oven, and you're roasting them until they start to come out and look a bit burnt. Then you will basically be blending it into an existing ice cream base, really. Then you're sieving out as many seeds as you can, and then you're just churning it, and it's just got a much more complex flavor than just a normal strawberry ice cream.
But didn't you put lemon thyme with it?
Yeah, I also added lemon and lemon thyme to try and give it
a tang, bit of citrus, but with a herb. But also remember when you caramelize something, it intensifies in flavor. That's why stuff on the barbecue is great, right?
Mm.
So it just, and also if you caramelize tomatoes, they get that sort of umami, but they also get quite sweet, but also in quite a dark, interesting flavor. And so, I mean, we love fire, caramelizing things, burning things, scorching things. You know, it's just a great flavor.
Yeah, she does a lot of open fire cooking, especially in the summer.
Yeah, we put an open fire in the front yard, and yeah, people go a bit like, "I got a fire in the front yard," and it's quite interesting because it's just, you know, just someone's front yard, so they find that quite weird, and then they're always, there's something. I mean, a fire. Everyone's just so interested, aren't they? If there's a fire, you're like, wow, what are you doing? And if it's suddenly you're cooking on it, roasting some tomatoes, and then they're like, oh, what is that? And if you're roasting the vine, because the vine smells differently, doesn't it? When you're growing tomatoes, the vine is more tomato than the tomato sometimes.
Yeah, it's
an interesting smell. It just takes you somewhere. And so if that sort of charcoaly, but more tomatoey, it just gives a kind of different perspective. And you just talk to people about it, and they're like, oh, I remember when I used to grow tomatoes. Then you start having a conversation about tomatoes, and then before you know it, it's like 9 o'clock.
So Wesley, why did you, what was your inspiration to become a chef, or to go down that road?
Well, in a way, I suppose it was Mum, because initially when I was at university, I would be cooking and we'd be telling each other about what we were cooking, and it was a way for us to sort of to connect, even when we weren't in the same place. And you know, she would make stock. I would try to make stock sometimes, but I would never have enough bones. I can't make stock like Mum.
Well, it's because I'm using more ingredients. I mean, Wesley was in Brighton and I was in London. And it was very lonely for you there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a difficult time. And one of the ways I thought would fill the time would be by me FaceTiming him and talking about food. And that's what we did. And of course, if he's making stock, I'm like, what are you doing there? So we'd talk and we'd be making stuff together. And before you know it was 8 o'clock, then he'd come off the phone, go to bed. And then the next day we'd do the same. And I just had to do it to make sure that he was safe. Wasn't, going through a tough time. People weren't very friendly there. So he was spending a lot of time on his own. And as a mum, I worry. But also I was spending a lot of time on my own. I wasn't used to him not being here. So it was great. And then when it came to Friday, I just couldn't wait to see him. And those, it took a lot of trains to get home back, 3 trains often.
I don't know about 3 trains. It was, it's not 3 trains. It could be sometimes when there's rail work, but yeah, sometimes I would come home and then we could cook together, and sometimes I'd be taking it back with me.
Yeah, it's just a real opener, and that's it really helped our relationship being apart, but just cooking and just talking about food. So we just apply the same strategy, even though it's not really a strategy. We just do what we love, and hope that people like what we eat. And we've done it in restaurants before, which has been terrifying. Just doing we did was it 5 or 6 course? Can't remember, but it was in a restaurant, and that was really stressful in a professional kitchen, and everything. All the ovens were super hot, and everything got and the pots were really heavy. It was cooked really quickly. Quickly. So we were like, uh-oh, but everyone loved it, and paired it with some lovely wines, and just continued just to talk to people just on a level. People said my portions were too big, didn't they? They were like, these portions are really big. I'm like, when I get famous, I'll be like tiny, so appreciate it now. So, so it's just fun. And also showing that it doesn't have to be scary. The ice cream, really, you went out into the front yard and, what's this, Mom? Oh, it's lemon time. Oh, I wonder what that's like in an ice cream. It's how it should be. I like the fact that if you go into your cupboard, and our cupboard isn't always the tidiest, but just reach for 2 ingredients and see what they're like. That's all you got to do. And it's only you in your kitchen, right? Like, no one's judging you. So it's just, I mixed smoked mackerel with bitter chocolate for Heston.
Smoked mackerel with bitter chocolate?
Yeah, that's what I had. And I thought, well, I think it's interesting. Let me show him. And he said, well, you'll have to watch the program to see what he said. He said he felt discombobulated.
It strikes me that food is more than just, specifically for you two, is more than just food. It's a way to connect with each other, and it's a way to connect with other people. A lot of the stories you're talking about are kind of connection stories.
I mean, yeah, I think that food, it does connect people. And I think that's just sort of cooking and talking about it is something that can improve your mental health. It can give you a goal and a focus, and then you can just talk about it. Just comparing what meals that you have with other people, or what you have with your parents, like you and Mum talked about. That's a conversation in itself, and that's one that's brought about just by food. So yeah, it's definitely a way to connect.
But I also think if you go into a shop that you're not used to going into and try to take some of the fear out of things, maybe going into a neighborhood you're not used to and going into a shop, and whether it's an Indian shop, African shop, and, I'm nosy, right? So, if there's someone buying something, I'll be like, what are they doing? Let me linger. Just to see what's in their shopping trolley or basket, and then I'll just ask, what's that for?
And then that's a connection too.
You just want to be nosy, because they'll be like, and I think that's quite funny. But also, when I was doing Crazy Delicious and I was going to the supermarket on a Friday night, I was just buying butter and Chardonnay, and the cashier was like, this is an awful lot of butter, a couple of bottles of Chardonnay. And I was like, don't judge me. And that's a conversation. We laughed. I just think it's got, just for it to start something, some sort of dialogue, really. It's just about memories about people. And also things that maybe you didn't want to eat, or I did a licorice pasta, bolognese, and people were like, oh, I don't like licorice. When last did you eat licorice? When you were a child. What else did you do as a child that you don't do now? Try it and see, because your perceptions change. Look, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but at least try it. I don't think you can go through life saying, oh, I don't like that. Well, why not? Well, I didn't like it when I was a child. Even though there were things that you didn't like as a child. No,
things that I don't like.
Well, yeah.
Brussels sprouts. I didn't like Brussels sprouts as a child. Who did? But now I like them.
Oh, okay. What do you do with them?
I prefer it when I go and they've kind of burnt them or fried them.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah. You see.
I'm not the biggest Brussels sprout guy, but I do like just normal full-size cabbage. But it's weird. I like full-size cabbage, but not Brussels sprouts.
But we could do miso on Brussels sprouts. Are you vegan? Are you vegetarian?
I'm a part-time vegan.
Okay.
I was a vegan, and now I'm a vegetarian.
Right, I see. Okay.
But I'm a part-time vegan.
Right.
I'm going to get a lot of hate mail now, but whatever.
So, I love savoury ice creams, but Wesley's not that keen on my savoury ice creams. I did a roasted garlic and aubergine ice cream, but he wasn't that keen on it. But he is my taster. I'll just do it and say taste. And he's really good because he does just taste, but he's quite honest. And but I think you can. I think it's just opened up our world, really, and we just want to do more of it and share it, with other people. And just to photograph it, I want to make you want to eat it, and so photographing it is quite important, and bringing that home so that someone thinks, oh, how did you get that? Or that the food should look good enough to eat, to make you want to eat. So I'm working with the NHS on making food look good it tastes good so that people do want to eat it, because the wastage in hospitals is something that's not really been accounted for.
She's a big believer of sort of eating with your eyes. She cares a lot about presentation, and for good reason.
Yeah, I don't use any kind of gadgety stuff or glue on food, because I need to eat it, because we don't have money to waste. I don't have that kind of lifestyle.
The way that you explain food makes me want to eat it. So I'm sure you're very good at taking photographs to make people want to eat it too.
I just think I just think it's fun, but really, I love making stock. I just absolutely love making stock. Just vegetable stock or fish stock or meat stock, just using up bits I just love that. And it's just flavored water at the end of the day.
Well, hey, if I love ice cream, then you love stuff.
Yeah, he loves ice cream.
Yeah. It's not just flavored water, it's imparting. I mean, it is. That's what's important. It's imparting that flavor and giving something more depth. There's a cooking stock. It's a whole art in itself.
Yeah, it is. I mean, do you make stock, Leon?
I the only thing I cook is toast.
What do you mean?
I don't cook.
Oh.
Did they tell you I was a cook?
No, but you said you used to be a vegan, so therefore you have to cook.
No, I mean, I just go to vegan restaurants.
Restaurants, okay. Don't you want to go behind the kitchen and see what they do? You not ever want to go behind the kitchen and just say, "Can I have a look?"
I guess on some level.
Yeah.
But actually, do you know what? I've started cooking for my dog, which sounds a bit bizarre.
No, that's
he's very particular. So I have to
you're picky than you.
Yeah, figure out little different tricks to get him to eat.
Oh, I wonder why he's picky. Does he like to exercise?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you feed your dog then?
Maybe he's a health nut.
He's a health nut. I feed him. Well, now I've kind of gone to these LA-based high-end dog food places, and I feed him that kind of stuff, and then I put chicken in and beef and all this kind of stuff to get him to eat.
Yeah,
but I've started cooking him food. I mean, it's very, and Wesley, both of you would understand this, is very meditative, right? Yeah. When you're cooking, you're in a meditative place.
Yes. Yeah. It takes you to, I don't know what I think about. There's a book, isn't there? I can't remember the author's name. What I think about when I'm running. It's the same thing. What you think about when you're cooking. It's. I mean, I did an online course in London after Crazy Delicious, just to learn about the mise en place, which is just getting everything right and in its place, preparing, doing all the prep. And then Wesley did some work at the cookery school and had to do that. And we're doing some online cooking classes. And again, if someone's prepared all that for you, if they've cut up the onions and the peppers, you don't necessarily, it saves time. And then people because sometimes it's really overwhelming, oh my God, this recipe is 3 pages, I don't know. But I really like just letting things simmer so that you're getting that smell, that waft. And I think it's just, I love cutting onions, and I love the smell of garlic and onions. I adore that. It's my favorite smell. But it's also about, just preparing things and also not throwing it away and thinking, how can I use this, again? Whether it's a tangerine and you might keep the skin, you might roast the skin, you might pickle the skin, or you might grate it and use it in a panna cotta or something like that.
Yeah, we don't really believe in we don't like wasting food where it's possible. Yeah, wherever we can, we'll always just try and use what we have in every sort of way,
and utilize your senses. So you've got the smell, you've got the obviously the taste, you've got the visual aspect. Wesley's very much into sound. You're very auditory, aren't you?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So, and I'm very visual. So hopefully we sort of complement, each other.
I mean, I like to think we do.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's important with food. I mean, the auditory could, obviously come with crunch. And
so, when you're tasting, you're also feeling it, the textures as well.
Yeah, textures are very important. But also the texture might be something that you don't expect. It might look crunchy, but actually isn't. So you can kind of play with your mind in that way.
What I've noticed is you both love food.
It's awful when we say what we want to eat, and then we kind of go off into this. We go off on one.
It's a bit of a debate, really.
Yeah, and we realise that other people don't do it. We have these conversations, and it's really quite funny. Yeah, I don't think I could be with someone who wasn't a foodie. Yeah. But I mean, just working in restaurants, and I mean, you've worked at the Michelin star restaurant, and I mean, he's doing a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, it's been like 6 months now.
That's tough.
And I'm like working in a Michelin restaurant. I mean, that must be quite an interesting day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brand new experience for me, and I guess it was a lot of work during of late nights, because during the week that's when people have dinner, but then sort of when it gets towards the weekend, you're doing those 12-hour shifts, because then people will actually have the time to go in and eat lunch, and I would be preparing sort of bread and pastries, making sure that the fridge is properly stocked, checking if there's anything that's needed, and then I'll be focusing on that for the day. So it's also quite high energy. There's also a bit of an organizational aspect to it. So yeah, and you're also part of a team. You're looking out for others, and we'll be helping them in case they need anything. You're helping each other, really.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant? Yeah.
I worked in a greengrocer's once and got fired after 2 days, but I have never worked in a restaurant, no.
Why did you get fired?
Because I was just useless.
Did you? Yeah, but that could have been quite interesting, because someone might say, what does that taste like? What's that? I
would have no idea. I remember I was probably 15.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
And it was, I think, my first job. And this greengrocer used to give, I have a couple of brothers, and every person's first job would be at this greengrocer's.
Oh,
my older brother was like a legend at this greengrocer's, and then along came Leon, and he was fired after 48 hours.
Oh, so it's a bit of a rite of passage then.
Yes, it was an interesting. I was just not interested in being a greengrocer, so I just didn't do anything, and then he fired me. But then now, I bet it'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? It would be somewhat interesting for a few hours for me.
Okay.
It's not. I love food, of course. I wouldn't consider myself to be a foodie per se, but I love food, and just listening to you guys speak, I would love to eat your food, because clearly you love food so much, and there's so much passion, and there's so much magic when you talk about food. I could literally just sit here and listen to you for hours, having a conversation between the two of you, right? And it's a beautiful thing, and I'd love to eat some of your food. You said you lived in London. Where in London?
Kilburn Way.
Kilburn. I used to live in Hampstead.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So Northwest, and but I think just to grow things, it has been amazing, and the conversations we have just about growing things, or just varieties. I came across this.
We get into a lot of conversation about you grow.
Yeah, which just seems to go in lots of different ways.
Sometimes you'll also sometimes you'll also see people. You'll see people looking over a front yard with their kids, and they'll just be their kids will be asking, "What's that?" and then their parents will be telling them.
Or we have stuff stolen. Tomatoes. We had all the tomatoes were ready, and we were using them sporadically, and they just were so beautiful. And then I got up early in the morning and someone had stolen all the tomatoes and left the vine. So I thought that was quite funny. But it just happens, really. So you think, okay, we grew some lovage, which is an interesting herb, which is used medicinally. Monks used to use it medicinally and put it in their shoes. Because my neighbour said to me, she's Polish, and she said, "Oh, I know that plant. I remember it, and it smells. It's an intense smell of celery. It's really quite interesting. So when I don't have any celery, I use lovage in the chicken stock, but it also grows profusely. But it's a really interesting thing. So I might show someone and say, "This is lovage," and they go, "Lovage," and I think that's quite funny. Apparently, I think it was supposed to be seen as an aphrodisiac.
Yeah,
hence its name. What the monks were doing, it was nobody's business.
Yeah, saying that.
So it's just trying to grow interesting varieties and talk about them, because these were things that people always used to grow, and they can have it in a really high-end restaurant. But in our butchers, they've got lovage oil, which is priced at a ridiculous amount. I think 15 quid. But you can get lovage, and it doesn't have to be silly price. That plant would think was £1.50.
God, it's been a while. You've had it for a long time. I don't even remember how much it costs.
Yeah. So I just think it's about also making things affordable and less elitist as well. But, you can do something chefy with it, as well. And chefs do wonderful things with it in terms of introducing different things on the plate that you wouldn't think, when you read a menu, the words and, are written quite poetically. And you think, what's that? Or why did they put that with that? It's interesting. And that's why when you go to your restaurants and, and speak to, the waiters, and they, you ask them what they eat, or what did your mother cook for you? Do you eat here? What do you recommend?
And it's a conversation of is it like when you talk about what if you put that with that, then it's like maybe you can put that something else instead with that, and thinking of things that may be similar but similar enough to still go with it and complement that other ingredient, but then also be different enough to give it a new taste, like a new perspective, really.
And I think it's particularly important that certain if I think about my culture and the fact that we live here, we can create a little green space, but green spaces aren't accessible to a lot of people, and that's why growing things, even if it's just in the front yard in an old bucket, is really important to me. Having access to green space is a privilege. Having a garden is a privilege. You're rich around here if you have a garden. You're rich if you have stairs. We don't have either, but we have a front yard, and we can salvage stuff from the skip, which I have done. And my son's like, "Oh, not the skip, Mum." But, some really interesting containers are there, nice and rusted, which I love.
Yeah, then you'll also get stuff to use as backdrops or like props for your photography.
Yeah. You can get a lovely rusted, honestly, you can get an absolutely amazing rusted cover and use it as a backdrop. I mean, when I say a backdrop for food photography. And that's what I do. And people think, where did you get that from? And literally, it's just beautiful. And you would never know. We've got meters at the front of the property. On the meter, the wind's like blowing. So the meter box fell out, and it's black. So I thought that'll do. And I use it as a backdrop when I had some cheese. And it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Do you want to show you?
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Absolutely.
Someone's here. Yeah. You see?
Wow, that's amazing. You took that photograph.
Yeah, but that is literally the backdrop of a rusted meter thing. You see?
Yes, I can see it.
And just with some grapes and some cheese that I got from the market. And that's all. So I really do think not only can you be inventive with the food, you can also be inventive with the picture by using what you have. And I think really anyone could do it. I'm self-taught cook, self-taught photographer with a little notebook.
You two need to have your own show where literally all you do is just talk about food. It's actually quite mesmerizing. The part of the reason why I haven't said much is because I'm just sitting here being mesmerized by you guys talking about food. And I think it's because you have so much passion for it that it's beautiful. It could be about your passion, and maybe it's your passion because, if you were passionate about, I don't know, garden gnomes, it would be mesmerizing. But you guys happen to be passionate about food, and it's mesmerizing just to sit here and listen to you speak about it. It's a kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think when I grew up, we just didn't have, there were 6 of us and we just didn't have enough. There have been times with me and Wes when we're like, oh, bugger, we're waiting for payday and, what can we cook? And
it's just then looking in the fridge and in our bowl of vegetables and just then using what we've got.
Yeah, God, that sweet potato curry. I can't tell you, doing a sweet potato curry. And, I guess on TV program, you call it sweet potato 3 ways. But it really is. It just is amazing. And did you know when we were growing it, you can eat the flower. And the flower, it flowers. It's the most beautiful flower. I can't tell you how beautiful this flower is. And it's edible. And when I've given the flower to people, because it's been growing there, right? And they're like, what's this? And I'm like, sweet potato, which really gets them, right? They're like, they say, what? I'm like, sweet potato. And when it's usually when it's a person of color, black person, because sweet potatoes we use a lot in our heritage. They're walking past and they're like, "Oh, nice garden, sis." And I go, there's sweet potato in there. They're like, "Say what?" And so it gets them. So then they're like, "Oh, okay." And then I'm like, because I like to play with their minds, right? So then I'm like, got some callaloo out back, and then they're like, "Callaloo, you say?" And so then they start talking about when they grew up in the Caribbean or Asia, and you just get this. It's just so special, but also using all of the plants. And apparently, the leaves of sweet potato are used a lot in Thai and Asian cooking because they're so nutritious. And I learned that when I went to the market, and the guy had some sweet potato plants, and I said, "What are those?" And he said, "They're sweet potato plants." He says, "I bring them." He said, "Because the Chinese community buy loads of just the leaves." And I didn't know that. He said then they wrap pork and prawns in them and then eat it. Obviously cook it and then eat it. And it's he said they always sell out. So of course I bought 9 pots because I thought, really? Because I thought that was really interesting. Like, who knew? And he wouldn't have mentioned it had I not just talked to him. And then I found some sweet potato. It wasn't sake. It was from a Japanese shop. It was like sake. But, it was quite amazing. It was quite strong, made from sweet potato.
Did it? I don't think it tasted like sweet potato, though.
No, but it did smell of sweet potato. So I brought it back to the guy at the market, but he wasn't there, so I drank it myself. But again, amazing to, so again, then you had the Japanese element in there with drinks. And I thought, and so, you just talk about it. And he said most of the sake is usually drunk by old Japanese men, he said. He said it's quite strange. But apparently there's a restaurant doing sake and pasta that I was told about. I haven't been to it, but that's all they do, sake and pasta. Which again, weird combination, right?
I've never had sake and pasta.
No.
That's neither.
Let's do it.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think you two need to set up your own restaurant.
It's expensive. We can't afford to do it. We've tried, but the area is being very gentrified. It's pretty gentrified now, and just can't afford to do it. We've done it in restaurants, but they charge, sort of a fee, which means that, we've just done it and not really made any money at it, really. So we just try to share. We've got an online magazine that people can download wherever they are and share and just cook the recipes. And that's what we've tried to do, really. We've just tried to still be here and still be visible and share what we do. And hopefully people like it. And it gets them to cook, or at least talk about cooking, and get people around the table. That's all you want. It's the things you've shared. It's the meals you've had together that you remember. And the sort of crazy things you did. I was roasting a celeriac just to see what it would taste like, but on an open fire, which was slightly ridiculous. But there's nothing. I mean,
you did that salt bake for it once. I don't think it was on the fire, but you did the salt baked celeriac.
Yeah, if you salt bake something, oh my God, I can't tell you that salt baked celeriac. You just get dough, you make a salt crust with salt, and then you cover the celeriac and you put it in the oven. I think it was on gas mark 3 or 4 because it was a big celeriac for about 3 or 4 hours. I cannot tell you how amazing that was. If you salt bake anything, the salt just permeates inside, but not to make it salty. It gives it's moist. It's just the most wonderful thing. This simple celeriac was just amazing. I mean, we couldn't believe it, could we?
No, I mean, it's quite a memorable thing. And then just sort of, when it comes out the oven and just seeing it with that crust on.
And then you have to break into the crust. You don't eat the crust. And then you've just got this tender.
Yeah, because you're just sort of there to impart that flavour onto it.
And it's celeriac, which is dirt cheap. But it's become a thing of such just beauty. And it tastes goddamn good. And you're like, you're joking me, right? This is celeriac. And I'm blown away by those things. And I've discovered it late. So Wesley's got, years and years ahead just to experiment and have fun. And I'm just, cooking and eating as much as I can and sharing, because that makes it more fun, right? What things don't you like to eat apart from Brussels sprouts?
Tomato soup.
Oh my God.
Liver.
Yeah, liver's tough.
Those are the two things that I can't handle.
Why not? What? Homemade tomato soup?
I just remember as a kid, something I just couldn't eat it. And liver as a kid as well. I would hide it under the chair instead of eating it. I literally cannot eat liver.
And what about your dog? Would your dog eat liver?
I've never tried giving him liver. Maybe I should.
Could be interesting.
Sounds like your dog's got quite expensive taste. He might not accept the liver. Might turn his nose up at it.
Knowing Archie, I think he would, but you never know.
Yeah. You never know. But the tomatoes, I think you should revisit that.
I love tomatoes. I just don't. When they're in a soup, something just doesn't work for me.
Is that because do you like cold soups?
Yeah, I like cold soups. I like hot soups. I like all soups.
Right, okay.
Except tomato soup.
Except tomato soup, exactly.
Maybe the consistency was too smooth. Maybe you need it to be sort of like a coarse soup that would have interest.
Sort of having bits so there's changes in the texture, maybe.
Yeah, and if you roasted the tomatoes, that would give you a different intensity. I tell you, we do a great roasted tomato with a sweet chili jam. Oh my God. I'll send you that recipe. I mean, you would not believe how good these tomatoes are. I mean, it's great. With a Scotch bonnet, a roasted Scotch bonnet, roasted tomatoes.
I mean, you haven't had anything with a Scotch bonnet in?
I don't even know what a Scotch bonnet is.
It's a fiery chili pepper.
I'm not a big spice man.
Okay. I'm not. We never used to have a lot of spice, but you've got to do this recipe. It's got a depth rather than it's not very spicy, but it has a depth to it. If you make it without the depth, it's just a bit bland.
Yeah.
But it is if you like roasted peppers, it's like a sweet chili tomato ketchup, but it could also be a soup.
And it does, to still have that sweetness as well.
Yeah.
Spice is one of the things that we've we have also been experimenting. We used to not have much of it, but now we like appreciate the punch. And I think the chili jam is a perfect example of that, mixing the spice with the sweetness.
Yeah. But it really is a game changer for tomatoes and would work very well in a soup.
That's what we're going to call this podcast, a game changer for tomatoes. I'm not joking. That's what it's going to be, a game changer for tomatoes. Guys, look.
But I like it when people say they don't, things that they don't like. So you think, oh, that's interesting. Because everyone's so different. There were so many things. I never used to like butter beans. Love them now.
Guys, literally, it's mesmerising to hear you guys speak. It's beautiful to find people who have so much passion. And I don't think I've ever been around anyone that has as much passion about food than you two. And now I understand when people say that. I've never really understood, I'm a foodie. I'm like, what? What does that even mean? But now, every time anyone says to me, I'm a foodie, I'm going to be like, do you remember that podcast you had with the two biggest foodies in the history of the world? And I will feel it and I will know it, and it will be magnificent. So thank you. I mean, literally, I could literally just sit here and talk. And I'm honest, I'm serious. You guys should start your own show where literally you just talk to each other about food, exactly like you've been doing right now, because there's so much, and there's a beautiful motherly son connection that you have. And it's just so beautiful. It's like, have you ever seen the movie Samsara?
No.
So watch it. It's like this movie where basically they have these images with music.
Oh.
And it kind of takes you in, it gets you in, and you feel like you're part of this beautiful film. And as I was sitting here having this conversation with you, I felt, as you were talking about everything you were talking about, I felt like I was in that movie Samsara, because you were just going and going and going and going, and there was so much passion, and I was just like present in your foodie passion.
That's because we haven't cooked dinner yet, so it's going to continue because we actually don't know what we're going to have for dinner. So
well, there you go. Your whole life is revolving around your passion for food, which is amazing. It's great.
But it's got to be about people as well, because it's just so nice to share, things that you've, told us about, that dish, the pasta and the tomatoes and your brother and the vegetables, and, all that is, it's just special, and we feel really privileged to, to hear it and to talk about it, because it's just memories that are just, sometimes it's those memories that you think are nothing, but actually there's something.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not necessarily about the food. It's about the connection. And you two have such a beautiful connection, and you're so passionate. And I feel like I've spent the past, how long has it been? 50 minutes, kind of just being a fly on the wall of your passion and your relationship. And yes, it's about food, but it's not really. It's about humanity. Right?
Yeah.
And it's very, it's been an interesting one. And I feel connected to you both. And because of your discussion about food, because of your connection to each other, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you very much for letting me into your house.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. It's been great. And just listening to you and wanting to follow you. We really do that, right? Follow him, like, not stalk, but, want to know which restaurants you're going into, like, and just like follow you and like take notes. That'd be really, because I think, there's just so much to.
What types of restaurants do you sort of enjoy? Is there?
It depends, as long as the food is good. And I will say, and I'm putting this out there, and it could work, it could not work. I'm actually coming to London today, and I'll be in London for a week. And if you guys want to, have me, I don't know, I'm kind of inviting myself into your house, but whatever. If you want to like have me over and like cook for me, I would say yes in a heartbeat, because
there's fantastic. Yeah,
there's something going on, which is beautiful. So yes, I literally just invited myself to your home, but but yeah, let's at the end of the podcast we'll exchange numbers, And it would be great. I mean, to be in your presence when you're like cooking, something is happening, right? I can't explain it properly, which I probably should be able to, but I can't. There's something happening. And you guys, there's a magic. And you guys, I said the restaurant, I know it's difficult, but there's something. Yeah. There's something that you guys need to do, because you're not just feeding people. You're feeding people through their hearts as well as feeding people through their mouths, right? And their taste buds. And that is a combustible moment of magnificence.
Okay, we'll take that on board and just look forward to seeing you. Will your dog be with you?
My dog will not be with me. He'll be here.
Okay. Well, we'll come on. We can try and think of some recipes for the dog. What's your dog's name?
Archie.
Oh my God!
We had a dog. His name was Archie too.
Oh wow! What kind of dog was it?
A Border Terrier.
Okay, this is a Boston Terrier.
Oh.
So maybe they're distantly related.
Oh wow! Well, that's a connection. We loved our Archie.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's amazing. So yeah, Archies are really special to us.
Definitely.
Well, look, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
And it was a real pleasure. And thank you for sharing your love with me and with everyone that's listening.
Honestly, it's been a real pleasure.
Hello everyone, it's Leon here, aka The Kindness Guy. If you like my videos, which I hope you do, don't forget to press the subscribe button and also to ring the little bell so that the notifications notify you that I have